back with you guys. My guest today is a musician and music lover himself, Greg Ward. Welcome to Music Talk.
What's up?
So, you're a bass player.
Correct.
Tell me about, give me, 2 or 3 minutes of, tell me like some of the stuff you've done or some of the bands and stuff you've been in over the years.
Well, let's see. So, when I started playing bass probably when I was, 15 years old, which was a heck of a long time ago. So, 45, not quite 45 years, over 40 years.
Ouch. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, no doubt. So, been in lots of bands, played lots of kinds of music, styles of music, and it's always been there. It's always been kind of a part of me, and it's never been a forced thing. It's been a natural thing, and it's been a cool thing.
Yeah, you never felt like you were forced into it, huh? It's
No.
always been a love, huh?
Yeah, and a passion, and it's just, to me, music is, for a true musician, I mean, it is an expression of how you're feeling, or emotions that you have inside of you, different moods, and so, I mean, it's therapy at times, for myself. It's entertainment. I mean, I can, I never get bored. If I'm at home bored, I just pick up a guitar, and I'm creating, and I can be engaged, and so it's always, something new that I can, put myself into and create, which is always a cool thing.
Mm-hmm. And so you play a little guitar too, right? Bass is your main thing, but
yeah. I mean, either way. I mean,
yeah.
I probably had a guitar, back when I was 14 or 15, and we were so poor I lost 2 strings. That's why I'm a bass player.
Yeah, I see how you could end up there, end up on bass.
Yeah. But no, strangely enough, I mean, for some reason, back in the teen years, I would always key in to the bass, what the bass player was playing, the notes, the melodies, the lines that they were playing, more so than I still never listened to lyrics very much at all.
Screw lyrics.
Yeah. I always listened to guitar and lead stuff, but the bass was, whether it's the register or the tonality and just the interesting piece that it plays in a band or an ensemble, of instruments, just for some reason just, attracted, me. I gravitated towards that tone, that sound, and that piece of the puzzle.
Yeah, I like the register of bass too. I mean, I kind of feel like I gravitate towards that as well.
Yeah.
So for you, it wasn't just necessarily about about chords in a song and the fascination with the harmony necessarily, but it was also the lines. It's the tone of it was cool to you.
Yeah, the lines, because that's what I picked up on was, basically what was driving the songs was the bass. And while the chord structure was cool and interesting, and the melody was nice, and the vocals, were cool. I could just tell that, what the bass player was doing made the song. And to a lot of people, it's a subtle piece that they don't ever get.
But it's not at all, is it?
No, it's not.
Yeah.
I mean, it makes or breaks a song.
Yeah.
And when you hear, a bass riff and a line that's holding down the fort, I mean, you can tell that's an integral part or component of that song.
Mm-hmm. See, I was going to ask you this later, but let's just do it now. So you're saying that I've always felt that the bass is really like the center
Right.
You know, the bass is like really. Sometimes I think people think the drums are the kind of the center, and everybody's swirling around the rhythm. But
Right.
I think the bass is really actually the center.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, you know, the bass and the drummer, you know, I mean, they do, you know, for the most part, make up the rhythm section of a band, you know, and that's the foundation. But, you know, the drummer is basically, you know, not just keeping the beat, but that's where the rhythm is and that kind of stuff. But the you know, the swing or the, you know, the movement of the music is being, you know, controlled or driven, you know, by the bass player, the bass line, the intensity that's going on. I mean, the dynamics in a band, you know, coming up, coming down, you know that the bass guy is, you know, kind of driving that as well, you know, and so that always fascinated me, being a control freak.
Yes, you are. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah. But it's really driving it, right? And so you would say that the drums aren't really driving the beat. They're like helping the beat.
Well, I think that depends on the bass player.
Yeah.
So, you know, I was thinking,
no, what did I just say? Yeah, the drums aren't really driving the beat. That the drums are really like helping, and the bass player is really, yeah.
Yeah, for me, you know, and I was thinking about this, you know, kind of on the way over here and stuff. It depends on the style of bass player.
Yeah.
Okay, and there's a lot of guys. There's no right or wrong. It's just, you know, it's all interpretation, right? That's what music is.
Right.
So for some guys, you know, for some bass players, you know, they're going to be the donk, 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 you know, country or even rock, you know, just ba da 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 da, you know.
Yeah.
You know, and that's fine. And you know, in that case, yeah, the drummer is going to be maybe driving stuff perhaps more in that case. But you know, my style of playing is I'm a, you know, pretty melodic bass player, and so which is, it's probably not very common or such, you know, across the board.
We wish it was more common.
Yeah, perhaps, you know, but it's good job security. But you know, so for me, yeah, the drums, when, you know, so the rhythm section that you know, works with my bands that I've been in, and our band now, is that you know, the drummer, you know, is holding the fort down, holding the time, and I'm able to create, you know, the pocket. You've heard guys talk about the pocket, you know, but you know, because
Jazz guys are always complaining about the pocket.
well, that's another interview.
Anyway.
So for me, you know, when the drummer and I, you know, got the pocket working and it's going good, you know, I rely on him, you know, to kind of keep things, you know, going, so I can, you know, come in, up and down and around the pocket, you know, fluidly and melodically, and it's those kind of melodic things that I like to do to drive the song. You know, not so much the drummer, you know, pushing the song. I like to do it, you know, musically.
Yeah, sure.
If that makes sense.
That makes a lot of sense. Yeah. So then this is something that I'm always fascinated by, is kind of the role of everybody in the band. And, you know, I've talked about this a lot, where with a violin player, I feel like my role is color. You know, like, so for example, you got a 5-piece band. Let's say you've got, you know, bass drummer, 2 guitars, and a violin. We've got 3 full guys to do this hold it down kind of thing you're talking about, right? Especially with a rhythm guitar sort of added to that a little bit.
Yeah.
And then we've got these other two guys that are idea of adding color. That doesn't mean the other three can't help with that too, because that's what you're
Right.
talking about.
Sure.
But I guess so so you're talking a little bit about texture wise. What is your idea of like how much those three should be playing? The bass and drummer and rhythm, should they be blasting through the whole time as many notes as possible? Should they be playing literally nothing, or should what is your feeling on that?
Well, I mean, that's a great question, and for a lot of people, I mean, they just want to, blast their way through. I mean, everybody's heard of the term "less is more."
Yeah, sure.
And so, for me, being the bass player, I'm always tuned in to what everybody else is doing. I mean, the thing about being a good player is you got to be a good listener. Okay.
Yeah.
So if you're not listening to what the other guys are doing, then there's no way that you could compliment them. You can't accompany. So when you're playing a lead, I'm digging what you're doing, and I'm giving you. I'm trying to not just give you, but I'm trying to create the space for you to do your thing.
Yeah.
And maybe embellish it a little bit, and put some dressing on it and make it interesting, but not overshadow and not clutter up the space so what you're doing gets lost.
Yeah.
Because my job as the bass player is to make you shine.
Yeah.
I want what you're doing, to be on top, out front, where people, are just digging that. And they're not going to know what I'm doing in the background to kind of set the stage, because, okay, now here's Rob coming, and so I'm, it's kind of like, I'm bringing the lights down and the spotlight's coming on you, but you do all that musically.
You're right.
And I think everybody in the band, to some degree, has to do that too, and that's what dynamics is all about. And when you've got, two or three other, lead players that can come in and that, I mean, they've got to be aware that, they need to, come down or play much less for sure. And that their role is to complement whoever's taking the lead at the same time. And so it's a tricky deal. Not everybody gets that.
Definitely not everybody gets that.
Most people don't get that.
Yeah. I mean, because I was thinking, just as you were saying that, like you, for example, so let's say it's like a slow blues, and I've seen this a lot at jams where you have somebody soloing and they're doing that kind of like regular kind of feel of a slow blues, and the bass will decide to knock that up to like a 6/8 walking kind of thing.
Right.
And it's not, and so you've now, so if I start going for real on my solo, and you go, oh, boom ba doo 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 ba boom doo doo, and you start walking pretty hard.
Yeah.
Now you are listening to what you're first of all doing the listening part, but also you're trying to help enhance my solo by giving this energy, right? And this momentum of adding to my solo by changing what you're doing.
Right.
I thought that was cool. And for a while I didn't understand what a lot of people that are, I think, non-musicians don't understand is, why was that so cool right now? Oh, well, that's because the bass decided to do this walking thing, decided to make this cool choice, and nobody can understand what's going on that's not a musician, but the bass player just decided to kind of help this thing out.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like, you're walking out down in the park in a trail or something, and there's a couple of different forks in the road or whatever, and we can go this way, and this will be a cool place to go, and it's got its own little scenery and stuff like that, or we can go this way, and it's got a different vibe. And so, as the bass player, I can kind of see, all right, well, let's take Rob this way and see what he does.
Yeah.
Let's have a little fun over here. And then I'm going to bring him back over to this other trail. So in that, I mean, that's kind of the driving, ability, of what a good bass player can do. And kind of what you were talking about too. I mean, I've been in a lot of jam bands, and to be a good jammer, I mean, you have to be able to change, a lot of different elements of the song to create, different moods, different scenes, different feels, whatever. And so, being a jammer, I mean, that's always fun because, okay, well, this is getting kind of old and boring, so let's change it up. You don't have to just sit there and do the same thing for, 2.5 minutes, and so, yeah, I'm feeling a little frisky, so let's pep things, let's jazz it up a little bit,
And you were talking about the idea of you're hearing what like the soloist is doing, and so you have this fork, and you're going to go like, I'm going to do this now, and this whole attitude changes when you know who the other player is too, right? Because I mean, you have like 5 really great listeners in your band, so that when you change to that walk, that other person's going to hear it in less than a second that you've changed, and so now that they're listening to you as much as if you have a certain situation.
Right. I mean, that's what a good band is all about. I mean, they're feeding off each other. So we're creating something on the fly, just impromptu, and.
What people don't understand is that happens this fast.
Oh, yeah.
That's just so cool that people get so good at listening.
Right. And you have to listen to be able to make that happen. I mean, I played in a lot of bands where, I'm doing this and the other guy doesn't get it. He still goes over here, and then it's a train wreck.
Yeah.
And so.
That really helps. Yeah.
Yeah, so, in those situations, I mean, I don't do that as much because the other guy can't handle it.
Yeah.
So at that point in time, I make that adjustment, scale back down, to keep things, good for everybody. And if that's where they're at, try to keep it as good as it can be. Because they're not going to get it, and so there's no sense in. I mean, you've got some limitations, but that's just the way it is.
I mean, another couple of things on that I was thinking about is that I know I talk to my students about this a lot, where when you're improvising specifically, I think people sometimes are kind of flabbergasted by improv of they've never done it before. They're like, you're just making that up right now. And I always try to explain to them that you kind of said this earlier, where others are kind of helping you decide sometimes. Right? So if you're a really good listener and you've kicked this up to this walk, that if I'm a good listener and I am going to go with you, you've now decided you've helped decide where this energy is going for the next half a minute or something. And if I go with you, I didn't decide that energy, the bass did, or the bass is playing off of what I'm doing. And so that always surprises me. And it's obvious when you pick a song, right? Somebody picks a song and that's immediately deciding kind of like a ballad compared to like a rip-roaring fast song, right? The song is kind of dictating to you already what huge area of improv you're doing, right? You're not going to go wild and crazy on this ballad because it's a ballad. But then you get over here and you might not do really boring, long tone kind of stuff, so I think I don't know if you agree with that or not. I think maybe that's a little bit what you're saying, where you're not always 100% deciding what you're doing as other people are helping you in a way.
Sure, and I think it also doesn't have to be just the guy taking the lead ride. I mean, the drummer can, throw in some different stuff rhythmically, and then I'll key in on that, and that'll give me a different idea. And so, we may together, go a different direction, but because he kind of kicked it off, or
Right.
he kind of instigated it.
Yeah.
So, oh, that's cool.
Yeah, he instigated it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Those drummers, they're always instigating
Yeah.
things.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
It doesn't have to be the lead guy. It can be
Yeah.
anybody, or what the singer's singing, or that's just the fun of it. I mean, it's it's kind of like the army. It's not just a job; it's an adventure.
It's totally an adventure. Last question on that I was thinking about, that you were saying about not getting the limelight, and I always like for people to understand, like with a sports analogy, I think of like football and the linemen, right? That kind of reminds me of the bass and drums,
Yeah,
where
okay.
if they're wrong, everything looks really bad.
Right.
But then when it's right, the quarterback gets all the
Glory.
all the glory, and like. And I just think that's really in another band I had. It was a funny moment where I said, like, we had just got done playing a show, and it was our country band, and I said something like, man, guys, I think we're off on our chord in that song. And he kind of looks at me with the corner of his eye. He's like, you mean the bass player was off? And we all just start laughing because we knew what he meant. How like a country and blues, for sure, when the bass is like wrong on that 4 chord,
Yeah.
like it sounds bad, and everybody's like, and we,
Right.
And I mean, talk a second about that, about how you like emotionally handle that, I guess, of never getting limelight, but then getting credit, everybody looking back at you when it's wrong and stuff. What do you think about that?
Well, I usually don't get anything wrong, so that helps.
Yeah, well,
But
Greg Ward talking
Yeah.
crap.
no, I'm just messing with you.
You're right.
I'm not in it for the limelight. I don't really care. I mean, I don't, personality-wise, whether we're playing music or not. I mean, I'm not an attention hound anyway.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's no big deal to me. I'm kind of an analytical kind of guy. I like hanging back and kind of, seeing what everybody's doing and okay, well, how can I come in here and do that? And then, my satisfaction is just that, if stuff works and it's cool, great, I'm happy. I mean, I don't care whether anybody else necessarily gets it or I get any, real credit.
It's a really good attitude, man.
It just is what it is. And, so what makes me happy, like our band, we've got a really good band, and everybody, there's no really big ego trips like in,
Yeah, I agree with that, yeah.
in most every other band
Aside
in the
from
world
me,
I've been in. But-
Just to give a disclaimer, we're in a band. I didn't say that. We're in a band called Dirtgrass Canyon, and so he plays bass, I play violin and stuff. So if people don't know what we're talking about,
Yeah. The credit and the glory, no big deal.
Yeah. So that's kind of a really good segue to the next thing that I wanted to talk about, is kind of bands in general. We talked about kind of the music portion, but tell me about a little bit about Crossroads Revival.
Well, Crossroads Revival was an idea that I had back in probably 2010, kind of in part of the Tea Party whole kind of thing, because I'm kind of a political junkie, when I'm not playing music. And, that whole movement was kind of fun and interesting, but what I noticed is that, a lot of those people are really boring. They don't really know how to have fun. They got good ideas, but they're kind of stuffy and
a little tight, huh?
Yeah, tight. That's a good word. And so, and when you go to a big event, you like, you need some energy. Especially if you got a bunch of stuffy people, somebody's got to, break the ice and get the party going. So, the other side, if you're on the liberal side, they've got Bruce Springsteen coming out and some of those kind of people. And so I had the idea, well, let's put together a rock and roll country band that's a good band that can go to some of these things and show these people how to have fun. You know,
Hashtag Tea Partiers are stuffy. Just kidding.
Well, a lot of political people are.
Yeah, I hear you. Yeah.
The Tea Parties weren't really. They were just coming on the scene. So, you know, and it was and my idea was also, if we were having fun, that would attract non-political people. You know, that may kind of had some of the similar ideas, but didn't want to be around all those boring people.
Yeah.
So if we could come in and create a situation that was a fun atmosphere, that would help kind of promote the whole thing too. So anyway, that was the idea. So.
And so you were playing not just bar gigs, you were playing like events.
Yeah,
some political events.
Total events. We didn't. I don't think we ever played in a bar.
Wow. Yeah.
Ever. We were just.
And did you say you did a big thing with the Koch brothers thing, or were you going to do that? I can't remember what you said the other night.
No, we did.
Like the Koch brothers national convention, right? Like.
Yeah. I mean, they. We had some. We were kind of doing stuff around Kansas City, at different events, and got to start playing for the governor here and meeting some different people and it's just kind of like anything else, networking stuff. And so I became acquainted with some of the people that were associated with their group, and so they have a big convention once a year, or they did at that point in time, and so I had written a song, actually, been working on some original music because I like to write stuff too. And so I wrote a song that kind of, captured what I thought the whole Tea Party movement, was all about and was trying to do. And that song was called "Keep the Eagle Free." And so, we recorded that song, and we play that, and that kind of led to us getting the invite, to go to Washington D.C., to play their big national convention there in, I don't know when it was, 2011, 2012, maybe something like that. And so they bought us all. I mean, we were a pretty good sized band. I think there was 6 of us. So they flew us all out, had all the backline music equipment on the stage ready for us. We just had to take our guitars and, walk into the arena, or the concert place.
Tending your Aerosmith and stuff.
Yeah, kind of like that.
Yeah. So I guess I asked you to kind of give people a background of kind of what level of events and stuff that kind of band was at. And so, like, both these questions are kind of linked, I guess. Is that so? What was a thing about that band that didn't work? What was the thing that was like tough about that, or?
Well, I mean, that was in a way a disappointing band. On the other hand, because there wasn't a real synergy with a lot of the band, with the individuals in the band. I mean, we were playing songs, we really weren't making music, and so while the moment was fun, while the energy was there, and we were a pretty good band, but it was, pretty canned. I mean, to some degree.
Sure.
I mean, there wasn't any. I mean, it's kind of like what I was talking about earlier. I mean, some of them were limited musicians, so you couldn't go out on a limb musically and have everybody follow you. I mean, you just kind of did the same thing. I mean, what was cool was, we had, really good vocals, and I'd known the drummer for years and been in 2 or 3 different bands with him, and he's a really good drummer, and so we played really well together. And so, and I think you know the guitar player, Jeff Reeders, was a good guitar player and stuff. So, I mean, you know, we had our moments, and we had a good sound, and most of those people that we played through weren't music aficionados. I mean, they didn't know any different. You know?
Yeah. And they weren't there for you, right? That you were background to the event, obviously, right?
In a way, but you know, I mean, you know, as we did 2 or 3 of these things, you know, then people keyed in that we were going to be there, and they recognized that we brought some life to the party, and so you know, they were digging that.
Yeah, that's cool.
And so, but it was a different animal. I mean, it was a different cause, and I mean, it was good for what it was, and you know, we played a lot of fun, interesting, different places, met a lot of cool people. Deals. You know, one of them I'll just tell you about was kind of before we started. You know, I hooked up with Kansas City DJ AM talk show Greg Knapp. Okay, and I think he's still on the air now, but you know, he was running a conservative radio talk show, and you know, so I met Greg. I don't remember how, but anyway, he played guitar and we talked a little bit, and I had kind of had this idea, and I kind of laid it on him, and we said, hey, let's get together, and we did, and so from just the 2 of us kind of doing an unplugged thing, you know, we got an invite to do a deal up in North Kansas City. I'm trying to remember where it was. Wasn't quite up to St. Joe, but it was what's right up by the airport. What's the little town up there?
Oh man, I can't even think of it. There's
Platte. It was the Platte City.
Platte City, yeah.
Republican Party, and they brought in Ronald Reagan's son. Can't remember what his first name is.
No, can't remember either.
But anyway, they brought him in, and so we got to play, and we got to bring, you know, Reagan's son up on stage and meet him, and you know, and so I mean, that was a very cool experience.
Oh yeah, I bet. That's pretty big time. Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, and so we got to, you know,
that's neat.
Kind of kid with each other, and you know.
Yeah, that's cool. So I guess why I'm coming to this is that what you and I were talking about the other day was about the idea of when you're sitting in a band and you have this direction you want to go as you, or maybe 2 or 3 of you are all sort of kind of on the same page of what you want, and then you have these other 2 or other person or whatever that you can tell that it's hard to tell what they think, but by their actions they're not showing, you know, the same sort of like intensity or the same sort of initiative or the same sort of the same want and desire that you have by action.
Right. You're not talking musically necessarily.
No, I'm talking like direction of the band. Yeah. And it could be musically too, but I'm talking specifically about the direction. And so you and I were talking about how sometimes like somebody like myself that is maybe more, I don't know about leader driven, but I'm definitely like thinking out like our goals and our, you know, what direction we're going and what do we need to get there. Anal. Great. Thanks, Greg. That's lovely. But would you say the helicopter mom, Rob?
You remember?
I did remember it. It stuck with me, and it hurt my soul. But
it's good for you.
Yeah, I know. But so you were talking about how you have a couple of people in the band that are kind of acting sort of more like leaders, and the other ones are kind of getting dragged along, sort of. But you were talking about how that's not. We sometimes feel like that's bad, right? Because we have these couple that are trying so hard, and then the other it seems like from our perspective that the others aren't trying. But you were talking about how it's kind of not so great when you have like 5 leaders in the band because they're all like arguing.
Right.
Talk about that.
Well, that's where conflict comes from, when you have, too many people trying to drive the bus. And so, I mean, I've been there in 40 years. I've been in all kinds of bands with all kinds of, really good players, but, some people had good, fair ambition levels, and some had no ambition. And so for somebody like me and you that are pretty ambitious minded, we're driven people. We want to make things happen, I guess. And so when you're in when you're in a band and you feel that it's more than just a hobby, okay, and you want to try to make something happen with the band, so we're always pushing to be better and get better promotional stuff and, better, studio recording or
Right.
whatever. So we tend to expect everybody else, to share that same level of enthusiasm and willingness to get behind the thing and push it.
Yeah.
And so, I learned, a long time ago that, that's painful, because when you start pushing on, I live out in Tonganoxie. We got farm animals, right?
Yeah.
You got a mule, he's kind of happy hanging out, and if you go try to push the mule, he might not like it, and you might get kicked. And so, it's a personality, it's a management thing in a way. You just kind of have to judge or take everybody at their personality style and level and ambition level, and not push, because, regardless, pushing doesn't, if something doesn't want to get pushed, it's going to get broke. And so, I just learned to let people, kind of do what it is that they want to do. And if they want to do more, say, here, let's do this, or, guide and direct, try to lead. That's what leadership is all about, is say, let's do this, and a lot of those people, they'll go along with it. And they're good with that. And so you kind of have to find the relationship and the roles in a band so that works, so that you've got some people calling the shots, some people just showing up. And it's more important for the people to show up that are willing to show up, because I've been in bands where, let alone they don't have the desire to show up, they just don't show up. And if you're at a gig and all of a sudden, oh wow, man, like my car broke down, dude.
It's like, yeah. And so I think that's like the key is that you're sitting here with this perception, I guess, and this knowledge that you may have from their previous actions of if you're just going to put them into these 2 categories of the people that are super ambitious with it and the people that aren't. The key it seems like to me is like, what do I do about that? Do I go try to push them, like you said, and make them come with you and drag them kicking and screaming, or do you sit there and go find like-minded people? Because that's what I think many people have, is they get mad that the other guy, like a good example is like drinking and drugs, right? And this happens a lot with bands where one guy is a partier like crazy, and then the other guy's going like, dude, we can't do that all the time. We have shows, we have deadlines, and so you're trying to basically make this guy quit a 14-year habit, and so that may be a situation where you don't have any control over this right now, right?
Yeah, that's a tough deal. I try to, I came to the conclusion of, like we talked about, not trying to push people, but see where they're at and what they want to do. I mean, I can't, and I was always the guy that was trying to motivate somebody. I thought, well, if I do this, and then maybe they'll catch on and get excited, and then maybe they'll do something about it, and, kind of get with the program, and, well, kind of like the Crossroads Revival Band. I thought that, that flying to Washington, D.C., and making everybody feel like rock stars would be a pretty good motivator.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. But it was just like, oh, wow, it's a free trip. I'm going, free trip? I mean, this could be the shot of a lifetime, everybody. I mean, who's out in the audience over here?
Right.
How we could be playing across the country, for the next 2 years and opening up for Leonard Skinner. I mean, you just going nuts, and they're just, standing
Senator blah blah blah. It's like right there.
Yeah.
I mean, that's it. Yeah. And you're getting to a good point where this goes into a massive like psychology, even a political landscape of what you're talking about right now. Of can you with a person that's in the band, can you change their ambition?
No.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah. No, you can't.
Yeah.
And so if you try because you're an anal guy, you're going to get hurt, and the other person's not going to have a clue because they don't care. You're the only one that's going to get bent out of shape.
Because they ain't getting bent out of shape.
Right.
They're not even thinking about this.
And they don't even know that they're, what the issue is or what the problem is. Like what's wrong with Rob, or whatever, or Greg or something. So, yeah, I just, I just don't try to motivate people anymore, or necessarily go out and think that, this guy's like-minded, so we might make a good, fit, or he might be a good fit for the band, or whatever. I mean, how did we hook up? It was just a fluke.
Yeah.
I mean, you guys just had that jam session going on.
You can get together any way you want. I mean, it just happens. It happens. And it's not like people are
Right.
Purposely looking or whatever. But you find that person with whoever, this like-minded person.
Yeah, I mean, to some degree.
All bands are different,
Yeah, and everybody's different in the band. I'm not saying everybody in the band's got to be a Tea Party maniac,
Right.
for me to get along with, because most musicians probably aren't, conservative minded if you want to get into the politicals. But I don't care about
or leaders. We just talked about that. All 5 leaders is also bad. Yeah.
So, talking about our band, what I thought was what makes it, one of the things that makes it really cool is the personality mesh that, everybody has their own individual personality, and everybody has their own individual talent set. And on both spectrums, all of that works together pretty good.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
And I've never really been in a band with 5 guys or 5 people that are both always talented and have a pretty equal contribution level to the sound. There's always a weak link or two, and you kind of they're limited, and that's always a frustration in a way. Or you got to make adjustments, and like you said, this guy's an alcoholic, and by the 3rd set he's toast.
Mm-hmm. By the 1st set he's toast.
And so how do you go out and consciously try to create those situations work? I don't think you can. It just happened that we had some chemistry, both musically, and personality wise, that we have fun together, and nobody gets super bent out of shape about anything, and we're all pretty easy going, and we just want to have a good time and play good music, and that's the cool thing about it.
It was really cool, man. I wanted to talk a lot about that today because I think this is an absolutely huge problem in bands, is the dealing with each other's personalities and getting the right mix of people. I think that this is to me probably the biggest reason why bands fail, is because of this dynamic of how people deal with each other and the roles of everybody, and that whole thing is a lot of different things, but that problem is like probably, I don't know if you agree with that, but that's probably the number one reason people.
100%. So back when I was 18, in Topeka, Kansas, I was playing in a band, and I was playing in a different band, and this guitar player came to the club. I don't know how I was playing in clubs before I was 18, but I was. So this guy from Austin, Texas, who'd been in town for a while, came and heard me, and he was digging what I was doing, and so we got together, and before you know it, I was part of his band, and he was a great guitar player. I mean, he could hold his own next to Stevie Ray Vaughan. And so we played around Topeka for a while, and that band, a couple of the other players were not at the same level that we were at, so to speak. But was personality-wise, it wasn't that big of a deal. But musically, it was limited. So after a while, him and I was chomping at the bit to get out of Kansas because the music scene was pretty lame, especially in Topeka. I'm going, dude, you're from Austin, Texas. Well, let's go down to Austin and start a band where the music scene's hot and heavy. And we were doing blues and blues rock and Clapton kind of stuff, and let's get the heck out of here. And so I was 20 years old at that time, and so I loaded up everything I owned, which was back then just a bunch of records, and my guitar, my bass amp, and I hit I-35 and I headed south, and I even left before this guy went because I was so excited about this whole venture thing, but he was not a motivated, ambitious kind of guy. So I got down to Austin, Texas, and I thought, I got the hotshot guitar player, from Austin. We're going to put this thing together, and it's going to be cool, and we're going to be something, right? So he wants to sit around and drink Kahlua and cream, and play in his apartment, and go out and jam without a singer, and I'm going, I don't think that's how this is gonna happen, man. So I would constantly, try to push and motivate and get so something could happen, and it was just always frustrating. I was always frustrated, and so finally, we had a band, had a little drummer. We were doing a 3-piece, kind of rock deal with lame vocals, and it didn't last, and it was just one thing after another, and that was, I ended up coming back to Kansas, kind of discouraged that whole opportunity just could never come together, So if I would have just relaxed and let him be his thing and gone out and found some other people to put into the mix, who knows?
Yeah.
But because I was pushing and frustrated, that certainly didn't help.
Yeah, and that's definitely something that I'm trying to learn myself. And I definitely have to admit that I'm not 100% there yet. With just believing that, and I'm trying to learn better. So last question on this topic is, what do you think the idea, so let me say that I think the relationship type stuff that we just talked about is a big reason why a lot of bands fail. I personally think that other reason is that people don't have a handle on the business side of their band. And I think one of the reasons why I feel this way is because when we're in college, nobody tells us anything about this crap. We're trained to play music beautifully, and we don't know. I'm always fascinated by how people come at a bar owner, right? How do you bring people to your shows? What the heck do you say to your audience, right? How do you make an advertisement? How do you, all keep track of the literal money you made this year? That was a hilarious one to me. How much did you make this year? I don't know. I didn't keep track. All of that kind of stuff. Can you talk a little bit about if you think that that's a huge thing that people are missing a lot, or?
Well, I mean, it is, but it's kind of like a lot of other things. I mean, there's some people that are wired to be business people, entrepreneurs, and there's some that aren't. I mean, most people recognize that a lot of creative kind of people, work on one side of their brain, and business and logic kind of things, typically, are in the opposite side, and those two never meet.
Yeah.
And that's okay to some degree. I mean, I'm kind of a freak, I guess, because I'm a numbers guy and a creative guy, and a business guy and a risk taker, and started multiple businesses. So that's a natural thing for me. But yeah, I mean, I think for people that might not be wired as much that way, I mean, it's important to at least have a game plan and try to, it's kind of a job interview. You want to show up and not be wasted when you go talk to the bar owner. I mean,
it might help.
Yeah.
It might help a little bit.
I mean, and hopefully somebody in the band has got some business sense, and kind of let them do it instead of trying to do it. And if that's not a strength or your strong point, don't. I even musically, I mean, I don't see that much difference. I always my philosophy with a lot of things is, don't try to beef up your weaknesses that much. Like for me, I don't consider myself, much of a vocalist. I like to sing, and I'll get out there and harmonize and have a good time and stuff. But I don't. But it's not my strong suit. It's not a strong point. So I don't spend a whole bunch of time and energy trying to make myself
into that.
A vocalist.
Yeah.
Because
interesting.
I'm not going to do that because, I'm more interested in taking what I know I'm gifted at and honing that skill and gift, into something better. I mean, I can spend 80% of my time, and I'm always going to sing like crap. So why waste that time?
Yeah, it's possible. Yeah, so that's interesting. Yeah.
And I think the same thing applies to lots of different areas of life. I mean, people have strengths.
Do what you do really well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And don't this whole equality thing. People aren't necessarily equal in everything. I mean, you're going to be better at some things than I am, and I don't have to strive to be your equal in that capacity or whatever it is. I mean, I just recognize that.
Don't be a singer. Go get a singer. That's kind of your in a band sense,
And if you're not a business guy, get a business guy. To help you with that kind of stuff. They don't even have to be in the band. Just get your girlfriend if she can keep a checkbook or hand out business cards or write people down and talk to her. Or
that's a good point, man.
Yeah,
that's a really good point.
You don't have to be everything. Just do what you do and
that's good. Just a couple more here, quick ones. What advice would you have for young musicians? Not like kids, but like 20-ish-year-olds that are got some decent talent and they're doing what you were talking about of, oh, I found this hot guy and I'm going to move to New York and I'm going to, or what, those younger people that are starting to gig. You have any?
Oh, yeah, I think it still applies to even, people at my age. I think it's still okay to dream. I think it's still okay to, say, what if, we get the right group of people and we get the right breaks and, now, that said, you got to be realistic and you got to not have expectations set so high that you're always going to set yourself up for failure.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think that we're going to make it big.
Right.
I don't think or expect that, somebody's going to come along and we're going to be in a Prevost bus touring the country,
Front centers all over the place. Yeah.
So you gotta taper that. But when you're young, I mean, still keep the dream alive. But then, I think it's important that if people are serious, if you're a serious musician, don't fool yourself. And be honest about your band, about the capability and the potential that your band and the people in your band have, and be realistic with what you've got to work with, so you're not trying to make something happen that can't happen. And so if you're real, I mean, I wasted a lot of time on a lot of investing in a lot of people, hoping that they would get their act together. And so that's probably my biggest thing is, if it's not happening, don't try to make it happen. Go out and find some other people and see if there's some magic and some sparks and energy that just happen. And then go with that and use that to build on.
That's for your own health, right?
Well,
your own psychiatric health.
Yeah,
Beat yourself over the head all the time.
It's kind of like going camping and trying to light fire with wet wood.
Yeah.
I mean, it's,
rack your brain all day, and it's just
yeah.
That's a good piece of advice, man. I mean, I guess you can't. This world ain't going anywhere without people with ambition. You got to have that ambition, but you got to realize that today we're not going 3 universes over. It's just not going to happen, So you got to have that balance, I guess, is what you're.
Yeah, and if the guitar player doesn't have ambition, don't knock yourself out trying to give him ambition, because he doesn't have it, and you're not going to give it to him. And so if you want to do something, then you're wasting your time and on that situation, and that goes with partying and being drunk and not professional or whatever. I mean, I know you were talking about different times or different experiences that maybe that I've had in bands, and I do remember. Well, when I came back from Austin, I came back to start another band with another really, really talented guitar player, good songwriter, here in Kansas, but man, he was partying all the time, and I mean, to the point that he was an alcoholic, he had a problem, but I would constantly overlook that because of his talent and and I'm just going, if we could just,
How many times has that word's been said? If we could just.
Yeah, exactly. So I remember one time where the whole thing goes, okay, this is it. I mean, I get it, right? So we're playing at this sleazy little bar in Topeka. It was a fun place, but it was just a bar, and people knew us, regulars, and so it was pretty casual. deal. So, yeah, the dude's toast. We're playing. Give me 3 steps, Leonard Skinner, standing up on the stage, and he can barely stand. Well, he didn't stand. So we're on a riser, and he starts playing a lead solo and going backwards, and he just kept on going backwards, and he did a back dive off the platform.
Oh. So how high up was that? Like 3 feet or 2 feet or something like
that?
Yeah,
a couple of feet. But I'm going, freaking be kidding me.
So what they do after that, like on that night?
We bought him a drink.
You bought him a drink.
Shots for everybody.
Yeah, right.
I'm going. I'm not going anywhere.
You make an awesome point about, and I've done that before myself. When I had this person in my band that was in our level of age group, musically a 10. He was a killer player, right. And then, but in the one person that I'm thinking of, his definitely wasn't a drinking or drugs problem. His was just a flakiness problem, and we've all been with people like that. And so you make a huge point of that. People are able to kind of accidentally let all this other crap go because he's such a good player, right. And band-wise, when he is on stage, just absolute monster, and he's just, and he saves the day for us musically on stage, but every other moment is a horrible, horrible stressed out situation with that just happens a lot, I know.
And that's hard too, because, I can't tell you how many times in different bands, I'm in with people that have huge, great potential, and I think part of our, my problem, and maybe you relate to it, when we recognize the potential in these people, we want it for them because we know that they've got what it takes to get there talent-wise.
Yeah.
So we overlook, we make excuses, and we hope for, stuff, and even though it's stupid, and we allow that situation to drag us along, when the reality of it is those people are poison. I mean, they're poisoning their own lives, and then that poison spills out to what we're trying to do or what we want to do, and
maybe you don't even know it. You can't even notice that it's happening a lot of times too, right?
Well, I mean, for us, you mean?
Yeah, for us. We don't even notice that we're getting impacted by them.
Right.
Their influence.
We spend more time, going, shaking our head, going, oh man, what's it going to be today, or what's it going to be tonight at this gig? I mean, what's it going to, and so, I guess getting back to the advice for anybody is, you got to let them go. I mean, if they wanted to do it, they would get their shit together and come be part of the program. But if they don't want to do it, you can't make them do it. And if you don't let them go, you're going to drive yourself crazy. No matter how good they are. And that's what's really sad. I mean, you hate to see people waste their potential. I mean,
there's a love there, man. I mean, it's not just you wanting your dream. I mean, you see all of us as musicians, we are all inspired by all these other people. That's just how it works, right? I mean, you see Stevie Ray Vaughan or whoever the heck your person is, and you're just, oh man, if they could, and you feel it, it's not just that you're up on high and they're dead, it's that you feel for them.
Right.
Want them, so.
But even on a personal level, I mean, they become your brother.
Yeah.
And we've got a bond that because we play in a band now together, and so because of that bond, it's kind of the, I don't know how to say it, but you enable, you're an enabler into their bad habits, and you can't do that. You can't love them out of their pain that they're putting themselves through, and so I mean, that's the tough part.
Yeah. Cool, man. Last question. Let's talk just for a minute on what's next for Dirtgrass Canyon. So me and Scott met about three-ish years ago, and we played in a little duo. Scott Lane, our guitar player, is who I'm talking about, and we had a little guitar violin duo. And then we started running this little jam, and that's how we met you.
Right.
And then now, so it's been about 3 total, maybe 2-ish with you or something around there, and 3 total, yeah. And so, we've been definitely. What do you see? What do you see for the future of the next year-ish of the band?
Well, we've done some pretty cool stuff. Now, I mean, we feel pretty solid about Jerry on drums, and he's been with us. He's a great player. We got Colm on steel. So I mean, I think our sound is really solid. I mean, pretty complete, well-rounded. Could there be a couple of other things added to it? Yeah, maybe, but it doesn't have to be. So I think our sound is at a spot that we're able to go do what we want to do. I think we've finally got some marketing stuff working now. We've got a new logo, and that we can start doing, and we've been tweaking on a website for some marketing stuff. So I think we're.
You got a banner the other day.
Yeah,
it looks really cool.
Banner was
Yeah.
cool.
For the stage.
Yeah, that was a great pick. At Knuckleheads when we did that last week.
Yeah.
That banner underneath there, kind of
Yeah.
stuff. So I think all of that. I think we're on the verge of really being able to, do some fun, a little higher end stuff than just being, the typical, bar band on, Weekend Warrior stuff.
Yeah, because that's the thing. I think so many bands in Kansas City are at that. We can walk in and we in a band, they would bring 5 to 15-ish people a night, and they're easily able to go do this stuff where they're getting this $300 to $400 a gig, for a band, and they're at this. They just keep accidentally staying at this little spot where they're just getting their $300-400, and they, and so we're at least business wise. You just mentioned about 4 different things of different things that medium level band has. You talked about a banner, you talked about some maybe a really decent looking video online, definitely obviously business cards and a website, and then also obviously the whole music situation where you have a good sound, and you're trying to go from this $300-400, kind of this lower level bar scene to the $800 kind of gigs, or $1,000 gigs where you're playing opening for other medium acts and that. I mean, is that fair to say that we're trying to kind of get up festivals and that kind of level?
And I don't term things so much in what gigs pay, but but one of the things that I think sets this band apart is Scott's original material.
Mm-hmm.
And not only have we got a good sound and we got logo and we got something that's going, we've got something that's unique and original to offer.
Yeah.
And I think that's what sets us apart more than anything, because we've actually got something that people are gonna dig, and we're not going to be a covers band. I mean, that's what made the deal at Knuckleheads last week so fun, is we did nothing except original stuff. And Scott's a great songwriter.
They're pretty good songs. I mean, they're really catchy.
Yeah.
But they're really fun to play, and they're really good songs. You got all 3 of those together.
Yeah, and people can relate to them really easy. So I think, for me, vision-wise, I think what we've got to do is just get his songs with our sound in front of other people, and I think some really cool things will come about as a result of that.
Yeah, I agree. And last thing I'll say, you were talking about just describing our band. This is my opinion, but you were talking about kind of the roles of each person and of a band, and I think it's so cool that we've all kind of become a sort of part of the band in regards to the role. I mean,
Right.
Scott is obviously the kind of headliner and front guy for us, and he's the eye-catching stuff with his material, and he has talents that none of us have with talking to people. He's the best talker I've ever seen. I mean, he's probably the funniest person I've ever met too.
Yeah.
And so he is our, our role of being, really super engaged with the audience on stage. I think for you've done a really great job of kind of taking that sound man role, which we really need badly, for us to have a good sound, and we're, and you've kind of taken over that side, and maybe sort of, maybe leader of the rhythm section or whatever you want to call it, and I hope that, that I've kind of maybe become kind of the conductor on stage a little bit. I tend to I really like to cue and stuff and kind of be, know every single other person's part, like as well as mine, and try to cue everybody, and then maybe talking about that the other two guys are, I always find the symbiotic stuff really amazing, how a really good front man needs a band.
Yeah.
They can't just do it all themselves, but a lot of these studio guys who are killer musicians, they can't do it without J-Lo. Nobody wants to go listen to them.
Right.
They need the front man.
Right.
And so even with Coleman and Jerry, we need some other professionals behind us as well to fill the, so we all need each other in this weird way, and I just think we're doing a great job of
it's come together,
filling all the roles, and it's kind of snug, like you meant. I mean, everybody's kind of finding their spot, and it just kind of works pretty good.
It feels good, and it's fun, and so I'm digging it.
Yeah, man. Well, you got anything else, man?
No, not unless you do.
Yeah, I think we hit it, man.
Yeah, good job.
Some good stuff to talk about that I think every person in a band should consider at some point in their life, of what they're trying to do with the bands and stuff. But
well, kudos to you for putting this together and trying to bring some of this media to some people, because I think people are gonna want to hear and be interested and appreciate what you're doing. So
thanks, man. Yeah, thanks. I love talking, obviously, and I love hearing from other people as well, and so we had my mom on the first time talking about some teaching stuff and motivation stuff, and kind of talking about some band stuff, and I'll have some more people on in the future talking about all sorts of musical topics. So music talk.
Yeah.
This is the show. You guys take it easy.
Ciao, man.